The popular and economical Datsun Nissan compact pickup truck was produced in Japan from 1955 and has been sold in large numbers across all continents. Modern versions of this vehicle are still in production around the world, currently with the Frontier and Navara names. In Japan, it was exclusive to Nissan Bluebird Shop locations. Predecessors. The Datsun Truck line began with the Model 13 truck of April 1934, and was later used as the basis of the Datsun DC-3 Roadster. A series of small trucks based on their passenger car counterparts, the 14, 15, and 17 continued to be built until early 1944. This was followed by the near-identical post-war Datsun 1121 and 2124. In 1949 the 3135 took over, followed by next year's Datsun 4146. In 1951 the 5147 appeared, which was succeeded 2 years later by the 6147. Aside from a bigger and more modern engine, the Datsun 6147 was nearly identical to the pre-war Type 15 truck. This was built until the 1955 introduction of the all-new 120 series truck. Datsun 120. The Datsun 120 was a load-carrying body-style version of the Datsun 1000 sedan, and was introduced in January 1955 as the first Datsun truck with up-to-date styling. Delivery van, panel van, and double cab versions were available. Until 1959 it used the 25 horsepower, 860 cc's Nissan D10 engine with a 4-speed floor-shift manual transmission. During its 6 years in production 6 main models were built, 120, 122 and 123. For reasons unknown, Nissan skipped the 121 designation. After the introduction of the re-engined 220 series truck, a modernized low-cost option, the Datsun 124, was introduced in October 1957. It continued to use the same bodywork and engine as the 123, although with less chrome trim. This was then followed by the re-engined Datsun 125 in 1959 and finally by the Datsun 126 in 1960. While the 124 was still powered by the D10, the 125 and 126 received an improved version of this engine called the B1, rated at 27 picoseconds. Datsun 220 . In November 1957 the Type 220 was introduced. Largely unchanged in appearance from the 120 series, which continued to be built as a cheaper version, it was produced from 1957 to 1961. During this time 4 models were produced, 220, 221, 222, and 223. The chassis was based on the 210 series sedans. 2 engines were available, the 37 horsepower Nissan C engine, and the 48 horsepower Nissan E engine. The E engine was originally only used in models sold on the export market. The 223 was powered by a new engine, the Nissan E1, rated at 60 horsepower. The 220 was the first Datsun truck to be equipped with a 12-volt electrical system. Double cab and delivery van versions were available. Side badges were Datsun 1000, or Datsun 1200. The 223 also had a round 60 horsepower badge. There was also a round badge on the dashboard that said Datsun 1000, or Datsun 1200, depending on the engine. The 223 had a revised chassis and suspension system. The front I-beam suspension used on the 220, 221 and 222 was replaced with an independent front suspension with torsion bars. A long bed version was introduced with the 222. As a low-cost option, a lightly changed model of the D10 sit-valve engined predecessor was introduced in October 1957, followed by the Datsun 125 in 1959 and finally the Datsun 126 in 1960. The 125 and 126 were powered by the B1, an improved version of the D10 with 27 horsepower. In 1958 the Datsun 220 was exhibited at the Los Angeles Auto Show, with American exports beginning soon after. It was the 220 series that established Datsun in the American market. Datsun 320, in August 1961 the new 320 series was released. It was produced until 1965 in 3 series. The 320 series was largely inherited from the earlier 120/220, although with clear improvements to body and frame. It used the Nissan E1 engine. This engine produced 60 picoseconds. All Datsun trucks kept the A-arm torsion bar front suspension with leaf-sprung rear ends and had a 1/2-ton load capacity. Rear-end gearing was a low 4.8751 along with a 4-speed transmission. As a result, the 320 was not freeway-friendly above 60 miles per hour. Fender emblems show Datsun 1200, and 60 horsepower with a Datsun emblem on the front nose of the hood. Available body styles include a single-cab truck, a longer wheelbase single-cab truck, a double-cab pickup with flush sides, and a 3-door light van. Though described as a van in the Japanese market, the V320 is essentially a 2-door station wagon. The 320 came in 2 cab and bed versions, regular, and as the NL320 sports pickup variation, which is a rarer version with the cab and bed of a one-piece design. Its back half is greatly different than that of the standard, separate bed 320 pickup. Bed and luggage space were in addition to the expansion, with the support of the market characteristics and the robust chassis engine was easy to handle. It was a bestseller in the truck market segment. The chassis was also a sales hit 310 in the reinforcement of the type Datsun Bluebird 310, a variation of the same series, in which the X members plus a reinforcement of the Fairlady Roadster of the S310 type CSP 311. It was also used for the new Sylvia Cooper copyright. In 1964 the 320 underwent minor changes. After having adding the failed light stout, Toyota took over high-nose Brisker and then continued with the Hilux. Mazda also competed in this segment, with the Mazda B series. In 1960, Nissan assumed operations of the Mansei Diesel Industries, Limited, renaming the company as Nissan Diesel Motor Company, Limited. Datsun 520. The Datsun 520 was built from 1965 until 1969. It used the new 1.3-liter, 67-horsepower Nissan J13. In 1965 and 1966 the 520 had 2 single headlights. For 1967, the 520 was slightly redesigned and had twin headlights. This design was carried on until the end of 520 production. Single cab, LWB single cab, double cab and delivery van versions were available. G was used to identify the long wheelbase versions. The fender emblem said Datsun 1300. A grille emblem was added in 1966 and simply said D. In late 1967 a slightly altered model appeared, now with a slightly changed chrome grille with a distinct frame. The 521 was the facelifted version of 520, with a so-called flat deck style. This meant a flattened bonnet and front fenders as well as a new grille design. It used the Nissan J engines and later had a 95 picoseconds Nissan L16 engine, always with a straight rear axle. The 520 strongly resembles a Datsun 410/411 from the front, since it shares most sheet metal with that car. The fender emblem said Datsun 1300, Datsun 1500, or Datsun 1600. Van delivery van and double cab versions were available. It was manufactured from 1969 to 1972, preceded by the 520 and followed by the 620. The 521 was the first compact half-ton pickup sold in the American market, in 1968. In 1968, larger load-carrying duties were now shared with a Datsun Cabstar, a Cabova truck. Datsun 620. In February 1972, the Datsun 620 truck was released and was in production until 1979. It was a regular cab truck and 2 wheelbases were offered, for a total of 6 different models. There was also a delivery van version, offered only in Japan. Naturally there were bare chassis models, and many importers installed locally made flat decks. There was also the U620, which is a crew cab utility version. It uses a shorter, fully integrated bed to allow comfortably seating 4 people. The U620 was essentially a 620 pickup from the doors forward, with the bed and rear end being the only difference. Nissan continued the strong rhythms and styling of its previous vehicles, with a shoulder wing line, or bullet side accent running alongside the vehicle. In most of the world the 620 was equipped with the J15, producing 77 horsepower and with a top speed of 135 km per hour. A 2.2-litre diesel engine with 66 horsepower was later made available in many markets. The 620 was also the first Datsun pickup truck to be available with a longer king cab passenger compartment. This utilized the bed from the normal 620 truck, but has a cabin stretched by 24 centimeters, all placed on the longer wheelbase. The 620 was redesigned slightly for 1978, with changes to grille and front bumper. A 4-door crew cab variant was also offered in some markets. North America. In North America, the 620 continued to use the Nissan L engine. The 1972 and 1973 models were powered by the L16 engine, the 1974 model used the L18 engine, and the 1975 through 1979 models used the L20B engine. SA net rating was 97 horsepower. This was a 50-state car, with an EGR system for pollution control which sufficed to meet California's stringent emissions standards without a catalytic converter. The 620 was available with 2 wheelbases and also as the extended king cab model from 1977. In Canada the 620 was marketed as the sport truck, while American buyers knew it as the Little Hustler. In North America it was generally treated as a regular car, with 40% of buyers stating that they never used the truck for work. The standard transmissions were the F4W63 4-speed and F4W71 4-speed. In 1977, the optional FS5W71B 5-speed manual transmission became available. The 3N71 3-speed automatic became available as an option in mid-1972. This was the first series to offer an automatic transmission as an option. Final drive gearing was 4.3751. Side badges read Datsun 1600, or simply Datsun. The grille badge was 2 colored stripes behind the word Datsun. The 620 was known for its durability and weather resistance despite its small size, along with engines known for their reliability. As a result, the 620 was competing with the larger American pickup trucks, which in turn gave Datsun a strong reputation in the United States. A number of innovations were introduced with the 620, first long bed, emission control technology called NAPS in 1975, first extended cab, front disc brakes, and electronic ignition. Gallery. Datsun Nissan 720. The Datsun 720 came in regular cab and king cab models, with regular and long bed options. The king cab proved very popular. There was also a 4-door variant offered in some overseas markets. A covered utility body style like that of the early Toyota 4Runner was also available as an aftermarket conversion by a company called Matrix 3. This was available as a dealer option in the United States from 1984 to 1986 and was called the Bushmaster. In mid-1986 a factory-built version was introduced and was named Pathfinder. Other U.S. model variations besides KC were the GL, DX, street and cab and chassis models. The 720 was manufactured in the newly built Smyrna, Tennessee plant from the 1983 May model year until 1986. Early models had single-wall beds with outside rolled lips and rope ties, 2 faux hood vents, and tail lights on the lower rear valance. For a limited period, 1984 models built in the USA had the single-wall beds with rope ties, yet used tail lights on the rear bed corners with amber turn signals over the red stop tail lights while the backup lights remained under the tailgate. The front end underwent transformation as well, with a larger grille, bumper, and corner lights. There was also a revised dashboard with round instead of square gauges. At the same time, the regular cab was lengthened slightly and the air extractor vents behind the cab doors changed from the high flag look to long, narrow ones that matched the height of the window opening. The cabs of the King cab versions were unchanged. Finally, the late-model trucks produced from 1985 to 1987 utilized double-wall, smooth-sided beds, with revised tail lights on the corners which resembled those on Chevrolet GMC S-Series trucks. Some overseas models continued with the early-style beds. Model years 1987 and later were called D21. In most parts of the world, one could purchase a four-door crew cab version of the 720. The Datsun 720 was available in both 2WD and 4WD configurations, the latter having a divorce transfer case. The long-wheelbase 2WD trucks had a two-piece drive shaft with a center support bearing. In 1980 models were powered by Datsun's 2.0L carbureted L20bi4 engine, but soon after switched to the Nissan NAPS Z engine line for 1981. NAPS was the terminology Nissan used to describe their pollution control technology as a result of emission regulation laws having been enacted in Japan starting in 1975. In the Middle East it was powered by Datsun's 1.8L carbureted L18 engine. The 1981 to 1982 models used the Z22 carbureted 2.2L engine and an optional SD22 diesel of the same displacement. In mid-1983 Nissan introduced the Z24 2.4-liter twin-spark four-cylinder motor, producing 103 horsepower, 2.3L SD23 OHV diesel 4, and the SD25 diesel. This happened at the same time that the 720 series was marketed as a Nissan. The diesel engines were sourced from the Nissan Diesel division, which Nissan Motors acquired in 1960. In the American market the diesel engine was only available in the 2WD 720. The Z24 was upgraded to Z24i single-point fuel injection for the 1986 models. Buyers in the rest of the world also received versions with the smaller 1.5 LJ15, 1.6 LJ16 or 1.8 LL18 carbureted engines. The 720 series was never available with any of the Z22e or Z20e multi-port fuel-injected engines. These engines are, however, easy to adapt and integrate into the chassis and can be found with the genuine appearance of being original equipment. The United Kingdom only received the longer wheelbase, as a standard bed one-tonner with the L18 engine or as the four-wheel drive 2.2-litre King cab with 96 horsepower. Nissan D21, the D21 generation was the successor to the Datsun 720, sold as the Nissan Datsun Truck in Japan. The name Navara was used in some markets such as Australia. In North America, the company used the name Datsun from model years 1980 to 1983, then renamed itself Nissan Datsun in 1984 and then Nissan beginning with the 1985 model year line of trucks and cars alike. Nonetheless, the Nissan pickups continued to be marketed in the Japanese home market as the Nissan Datsun. The D21 series were unofficially called Nissan Hardbody in the United States. The truck's name, Hardbody, refers to its double-wall bed and overall styling. The hardbody was produced for the U.S. market from November 1985 until 1997, and were direct competition to the Toyota compact pickup. The move from the 720 to the D21 Nissan series body style changed in January 1986 for 1986.5, so the new D21 1986.5 and later hard body can easily be distinguished from the earlier 720 body style by its two large headlights rather than four smaller lights and a less boxy, more aggressive appearance. The Nissan Pathfinder was derived from the hard-body truck and started in the same model year with chassis code WD21. In the US, the hard-body cab styles were standard and king. Bed lengths were standard 6 foot and long 7 foot. International markets also received the crew cab version with a short 4.5-foot bed. Four-cylinder and V6 engines were available. A 2.4-litre four-cylinder Z24i engine was used up until 1989 and produced 106 horsepower. In 1989, This was replaced by the KA-24E of similar displacement, this being a respectable performance SOHC engine which was installed for the 1990 through 1997 model years with a new 3-valve per-cylinder head producing 134 horsepower. The 6-cylinder 3.0-litre VG30 or VG30E engine increased power and torque only modestly and was unavailable in the US starting with the 1996 model year because Nissan was unable to meet the requirements of the new OBDII emissions law in time. 5-speed, including overdrive, manual transmissions were the most common, but an automatic transmission was an available option. Both rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive versions were made in quantity. A limited slip differential was standard on the top SE trim 4WD variants. Major options included air conditioning, larger wheels tires, sliding rear window, stereo, and rear bumper. There were several trims available including Base, XE, and top-of-the-line SE. The XE could be ordered with a value package starting in 1994 which included air conditioning, power mirrors, alloy wheels, and chrome on body trims such as the mirrors and bumpers. The SE was better equipped and could be ordered with the Sport Power package with sunroof, power windows, locks, and mirrors, air conditioning and special robot alloy wheels. In 1992, Nissan had a strange model year crossover which 1993 models had the dashboard of the 1986.5 Euro 1992 model years with a slightly refreshed body appearance as well as some small interior changes and a revised instrument panel. In a first for the auto industry, this model used the newer 134A air conditioning refrigerant. In 1993, the last major refresh would last through 1997. Changes were a new ergonomic dashboard and much improved interior for 1994. 1995 was the first model year to comply with the new U.S. Department of Transportation high-mount brake light regulation requiring all trucks to have a brake light in the center of the rear at the top of the cab. In late 1995, a driver's side airbag was added as well as compliance with the new U.S. OBDII emissions law. Rear-wheel ABS came with both 2WD and 4WD models beginning in 1990. Versions sold in other countries came with a host of more economical engines, ranging from 1.6-litre gasoline 4s up to a 2.7-litre diesel 4-cylinder, including SD25 and TD25 diesel engines. These low-cost, dependable hard-body small pickup trucks sold very well worldwide, and are still often seen both on road and off-road. They are renowned for their reliability and endurance, with the exception of body panel and frame rust over time. Other things to look for are a noisy timing chain on the 1990 Euro 1997 KA-24E 4-cylinder engine in particular which had a problem with the stock timing chain guides and slippers deteriorating, breaking off and allowing the timing chain to damage the timing cover, seizing the chain to the engine and/or timing cover, as well as damaging pistons and bending valves requiring serious engine work in extreme cases. This was remedied by buying aftermarket engine timing parts and repairing immediately when noises became apparent. Otherwise, the KA-24E was an excellent engine. The V6 engine had a timing belt that requires replacing every 60 miles. Exhaust manifold studs were well known to fail prematurely due to heat embrittlement from poor materials quality, on all years from 1986.5-1995. In the U.S., beginning in 1997, the new D22 was officially named Frontier, and used a new DOHC 2.44 cylinder borrowed from the Nissan Altima. A newly modified VG33 V6 was available in 1998 and ending production in the U.S. in 2004. The new VG33 V6 had new, larger, 10 mm exhaust manifold studs in an attempt to decrease the risk of premature exhaust manifold stud failure, but still had limited success. In general however, the VG30E and VG33E V6s were both amazingly reliable engines. The D21 design was still available new in some Latin American countries, made in Mexico until the 2008 model year. In its current home country a range of 4 basic variations of the D21 are sold together as the Nissan Caymans. Nissan Mexicana ended production of the Caymans on March 15, 2008 after 15 years of production in the Cuernavaca plant. The Nissan D21 is still being sold in Venezuela as of 2014. References